2024 Giro d'Italia, Stage 19, up here on the slopes of Sappada. Team Decathlon-Ag2r La Mondiale strikes again. Andrea Vendrame wins Stage 19 after going over the top of Sappada, descending down here to the finish to come over the line victorious, giving 22 wins so far in this 2024 season to the French World Tour team. The team has been revitalized. I want to talk about that team, and I also want to talk about the GC group behind today that came over the line 15 minutes behind, and specifically Geraint Thomas, who crashed, unfortunately, and we'll get to that. Let's talk about Team Decathlon and Vendrame's win. Decathlon, for those of you who don't know, my American friends out there, well, it's a sporting goods store here in Europe. They sell all sorts of great stuff. If you've seen me wearing my rain jacket before that's just off camera here, it came from Decathlon. I bought it about 10 years ago and it's still going strong. Well, the team for 2024 is going strong. Wins all over the globe. In the UAE Tour, it was Ben O'Connor winning there. Wins in the Tour of La Mondiale. 22 wins, as I mentioned, so far this season. 2 coming here in the Giro d'Italia. The first one from Valentin Perpentre, and now today, Andrea Vendrame, the 27-year-old, I think he's 27, who comes from just nearby. I stayed near his hometown last night in the region of Veneto, and now we're standing in the northeast of Italy, the far northeast of Italy, in the region of Friuli Venezia Giulia. This region, of course, has its capital of Trieste. Now, that was where Vendrame decided to take his victory, a second victory, adding on to his 2021 stage victory. He did it here today, giving the team a massive haul of wins. Oh, and I forgot to mention the rebirth of Irish sprinter Sam Bennett, who's picked up a few wins just the other day in the 4 days of Dunkirk. And Ben O'Connor in this race, in addition to those 2-stage wins, sits 4th overall as we approach the final mountain stage tomorrow. And then on Sunday, the finish in Italy's capital of Rome, a sprint stage. Now let's focus on today's stage and what gave the team its 22nd win of the season. It was a day that was billed for an escape, 157 kilometers, a Cat 2 climb, a Cat 3 climb, a lower categorized climb, and then a higher categorized climb, another Cat 2 climb. The Sappada climb just over that way before the 6.2 kilometer descent here to the finish line. You'll remember back in the day, it was Simon Yates who won here. I think it was the day after Chris Froome won on Zocolan. Simon Yates would win here. I think it was his 3rd win in that year's Giro d'Italia in the pink jersey before he'd have an issue and would fall out of the lead in the race. Now today, that move, well, it went after a lot of fighting because all the riders who had a chance to try to win from an escape, who's not a sprinter, is not a GC rider, they were out to try to do it. We saw Kevin Vermarke from Team DSM, the American. We saw also Magnus Sheffield, the American from Ineos Grenadiers, trying to make the escape, but eventually, I think around 125 kilometers to go, a group of 5 went that would then go on to form this group of 10 that we'd see fighting for the victory, and the GC group behind seemingly happy to let those guys go. That group that formed had Jonathan Narvaez, already stage 1 winner in this year's Giro d'Italia, Quinten Hermans, Vendrame, Enzo Paolini, Jasper Stuyven, Edward Toons, Peleo Sanchez, Julian Alaphilippe, yes, stage winner also in this year's Giro d'Italia, Luke Plapp, the Australian champion, and Mattia Baez. In that group, of course, Sanchez, a stage winner on the gravel stage as well. Now, they were fighting all day out there to try to make something happen and deciding which of those riders would go on to fight for stage victory. So we saw attacks and counterattacks. Alaphilippe was always on the attack, trying to whittle down that group to a group that could go on to fight for the victory. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, it wouldn't be with Alaphilippe. We saw his attacks multiple times that brought out several different riders. Nearing the top of the Sella Valcalda, that categorized 3 climb I was talking about, we had this group of 7 riders form with Hermans, Vendrame, Steinhauser, Luke Plapp, Jonathan Narvaez, Sanchez, Alaphilippe. Descending down that, we saw the move that would eventually see Vendrame go on to take the stage win, 27.5 kilometers out. And back behind in the GC group, when the GC group eventually passed there, we saw some stragglers, and we saw Andrea Piccolo, the Italian, hit a drain pipe or a drain cover of some sort, went off his bike, hit the ground, and unfortunately he had to abandon the race. Italian from Team EF Education, easy post. He abandoned. Up front, we were watching the race. It was Vendrame solo. Behind, it was Sanchez and Steinhauser. Steinhauser had the lead, they're chasing in second, but Sanchez caught him, attacked him, and passed him. That would be the finishing order. It would be Vendrame at the finish line. It would be Sanchez finishing second, winner of the gravel stage ahead of Alaphilippe, and it would be Steinhauser, already a stage winner 2 days ago, coming in third place. Vendrame celebrating on the finish line. The roar of the Italians up here in Friuli. They also speak Friulian in addition to Italian in this area. Just over the border we have Slovenia, so the Slovenian flags are waving wildly today for, of course, Tadej Pogačar, the leader of the race in that pink jersey since day 2 up there at the Santuario di Europa, where he won his first of several stage wins in this 2024 Giro d'Italia. Now, as we were picking up the riders coming in, I spoke with Luke Plapp, who had to stop immediately in a porta potty to use the bathroom. He came out, we spoke with him. We also spoke to Sanchez, and we also spoke with Georg Steinhauser when they came in. And of course, we got a chat with the stage winner, Vendrame, after he got off the podium, celebrated with the Prosecco champagne up there on the podium, getting in there in the mix zone, speaks only Italian, but he was able to give us a few words, how it felt like a home victory, even though he's not in his home region, and how it meant a lot for the team who's just steamrolling through 2024. Now, as we were interviewing those riders, we heard over the race radio, Geraint Thomas had crashed. Yes, about around 5 kilometers out. Now, they went up that steep Sappada climb. It went through the sporting biathlon, I think it's called, the shooting, the skiing. And for you history buffs out there, yes, the Sappada is the same climb where in 1987 we saw that inner team battle with Roche and Vicentini. Roche would take the lead from the Italian, and everybody in Italy was out to get Roche, including his own teammates. It wasn't pleasant, but he would eventually go on to win that 1987 Giro. The Irishman would go on to win the 1987 Tour de France and do the triple along with the 1987 World Championships. Through there and then down this beautifully paved road, and I understand it's a bike track that they race on, and in the past they'd finish up the other way. This year they finished up this way after that dangerous looking descent. Frankly, I drove it looked quite dangerous. Thankfully there were no problems there, but earlier on it was Geraint Thomas who overlapped, touched his wheel with Antonio Tiberi, the Italian in the white jersey of Team Bahrain Victorious. Geraint Thomas, 37 years old, so much experience, winner of the Tour de France, second last year here in the Giro d'Italia, came down. It was quite a scare. He sits third overall, right behind Danny Martinez, and of course behind race leader Tadej Pogačar. Got back up, easily got going, had to get a new bike, I think. Who paced him back? Well, he thanked Team Bora, because the Bora Hansgrohe car let him set on the car, get back in the group. We saw all the GC group, all the GC riders compact in that group, also slowing up a bit for Thomas, because today they weren't racing for the GC. That battle is going to be decided tomorrow when we go over the Monte Grappa climb. Spoke with Geraint Thomas here. We followed him in over the finish line. You saw the blood on his left elbow. He looked pretty beat up, but frankly, he said, hey, it's just damage on skin that I've already scratched and scraped many times before in the past. And he says he's a veteran at this, and he doesn't think it's going to affect him as he goes into tomorrow in the key mountain stage, and he laughed it off. We love it when we speak to Geraint, because he's always in a great mood, despite even crashing something like that. I remember the time I spoke with him in Gap at the Tour de France many years ago when I think he had a concussion, frankly, and he stopped right there on the finish line, still spoke, and seemed to be all dazed out and confused. But he speaks every time he crosses the finish line, and today was no different. And frankly, yes, he looks like he'll be okay tomorrow for that battle between him and our second place rider, Danny Martinez from Bora Hansgrohe, the Colombian. 22 seconds separate them in the GC. Now, before I talk about the GC, I want to quickly run down the stage results before we talk about tomorrow's stage. It was Pelayo Sanchez, 54 seconds back, Steinhauser, then Narvaez, Luke Plapp, who we spoke to after the porta potty incident, Traknik, and the other riders were coming in. Michael Valgren, who congratulated Steinhauser for trying today. Same teammate on the same team at VF Education. Further back, Julian Alaphilippe in 9th place. Now the GC. Thankfully, Geraint Thomas was okay. Still sets around 22 seconds behind Danny Martinez. Danny Martinez, 7 minutes and 42 seconds behind Tadej Pogačar in pole position as we head to that final mountain stage tomorrow. Ben O'Connor in 4th place at 9:47. But we need to watch that battle for 4th place. It's Antonio Tiberi in the white jersey at 10:29. So around about 30, 45 seconds separating those two. And then a Rensman further back, who I think a Rensman is now on Ineos team duties to protect Geraint Thomas, perhaps propel Geraint Thomas to second overall as we head into that Monte Grappa stage. And they say Monte Grappa is perhaps the hardest climb in this year's Giro d'Italia, and they do it twice tomorrow before that technical descent to the finish line. Bassano de Grappa area, you'll know it well. We're back in Veneto, and we're back there for the showdown of the 2024 Giro d'Italia. Last year was a stage 20 time trial where Primož Roglič got the better of Geraint Thomas, took him out of the pink jersey, and won the race overall for only that final sprint stage in Rome the next day, the big transfer down south. And we have the same thing, but this time it's after a mountain stage at Monte Grappa, and then the transfer down to Rome, which will be a sprint stage there in the capital city. So tomorrow, tune in for that stage where we think it's going to be a stage again for Tadej Pogačar and a big GC showdown. But today is a celebration of French team Decathlon, 22 victories so far in this 2024 season, and today it was thanks to Andrea Vendrame winning here in Sappada, stage 19 of the 2024 Giro d'Italia.